covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Up in the Air. My name is Ryan Phillips.
And I am Logan Williams. We have a wide array of topics we're going to be talking about this week, anywhere from flooding in Spain to heat in sports to wildfires in the southeast.
Absolutely. So student meteorologist Laura Silver will be talking about renewable energy. But for now, let's talk about Update in the Air. America's national park system just turned 103 years old, and out of 62 selected national parks since then, all but one has seen a warming trend. Since 1916, Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas has experienced the only decrease in temperatures by a dismal 0.1 degrees Fahrenheit. On the flip side, Gates of the Arctic National Park in Alaska has experienced the largest increase in temperatures by a whopping 4.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Undoubtedly, the correlation between rising levels of carbon dioxide and increasing temperatures is becoming more pronounced. This climate change is projected to force more visitors to these national parks by as much as 300% in some areas by 2050. Most parks outside of the contiguous United States have seen the greatest increases in warmth. 8 out of the top 10 warmest parks are in places such as Alaska, Hawaii, and the Virgin Islands. It's an alarming trend to witness, as the survival of some of these parks may be compromised.
Devastating floods have struck areas in eastern and southern Spain. Rivers overtopped their banks as some of these areas received record rainfall amounts in the past few days. The floods had killed 5 so far, with thousands more having been evacuated from the hardest hit areas. The flooding has also disrupted travel across the country, as several airports across the region have been forced to close, along with many rail lines and major roadways. First responders from across Spain have rushed to the scene to help evacuate people from low-lying areas and to begin the cleanup process. Acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez toured the damage via helicopter Tuesday and tweeted afterwards, "All my warmth and solidarity for the people affected by the heavy rains." Sanchez also pledged to use the resources of the federal government to help the victims return back to a normal life. More rain is forecasted for the waterlogged areas this weekend.
Fish are friends, but not food, as the Finding Nemo saying goes. However, the way us humans are enhancing global warming contradicts that statement, as increasing water temperatures are killing fish. Out of the United States Geological Survey's analysis of 40 river gauges since 1990, 65% showed an increase in water temperatures. On the ocean side, almost all waters surrounding the United States have experienced increasing temperatures since 1901. In rivers where warmth is occurring, some areas warmed by a troubling 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, coastal waters in northeastern New England have seen a temperature increase by as much as 3 degrees Fahrenheit. The deadly side effects from these warming trends include more parasites, algae blooms, and viruses that negatively affect native fish species. Not only that, some areas are warming so fast that certain species cannot tolerate the heat and unfortunately die off as a result. It is bad enough that fish are dying, but the $46.1 billion recreational fishing industry is expected to take a hit as well.
When wildfires are mentioned, most tend to think of the western part of the United States. However, with a changing climate, more Easterners are beginning to worry about the threat posed from fires. That is why states such as Georgia, Florida, and Alabama have begun fighting fire with fire. Each winter, when the weather allows, millions of acres are burned in these states as part of a prescribed fire campaign. In 2017, the Southeast accounted for more than 2/3 of the nation's prescribed burns. Last year, these 3 states burned a total of 4 million acres, while the other 47 states combined burned only a total of 2 million acres. Fire managers in the Southeast hope that with a warming world, the end of ardent fire suppression and the increase in prescribed burns will help keep future fires more tame.
A troubling report proves that a leading cause of death and disabilities in high school athletes are dangerous heat indices. Basically, heat indices display how hot it feels on the skin of us humans. Since 1979, 83% out of the 239 contiguous United States cities show them increasing, and that's troubling for young athletes. Right here in State College, the increase in heat indices over 90 degrees Fahrenheit is just 2 days. In McAllen, Texas, however, there has been an increase in at least 90 degree Fahrenheit heat indices by 32 days. Increasing temperatures combined with stifling relative humidity numbers are the ultimate culprit for such high heat index values. Unfortunately, 11 southern locations have seen an upward trend in danger days by as much as 4 days annually. Danger days are defined as heat indices over 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Young athletes who play sports have to be careful because these high values result in heat cramps and heat exhaustion.
Some hopeful news is coming from the nation of China, where some experts have said that despite the continued growth in population, pollution levels are decreasing. Researchers from the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change have released a report that found that environmental pollution as a whole in China has decreased, while greenhouse gas emissions are still increasing. This is important to note, the researchers say, that continued economic growth and pollution increase do not have to go hand in hand together. The researchers hope that the lessons being learned in China can be used by other developing nations in the world's fight against pollution and climate change. Hello, welcome back to the show. Now we go to a feature from student meteorologist Laura Silver regarding renewable energy.
In today's society, non-renewable sources of energy are ever growing as people take more initiative to cut down on pollutants released into the atmosphere. However, even though many people want to help better the environment, they really don't understand how much relying on alternative sources of energy, such as solar and wind power, can help. Thanks to an online tool released by Climate Central, people's knowledge on the topic is changing. The tool is targeted at TV meteorologists who can select their TV market and receive data within seconds for their area of coverage. After selecting an area, the 3-day solar and wind data for that location will be generated. The tool is free on Climate Central's website, so those wanting more information on renewable energy can access this material on their own. Data such as solar and wind power indices can be generated with this device. This shows how well suited current weather conditions are for both solar and wind power generation. It also shows the percent of daily electricity costs a homeowner could save with a solar roof installation. Underneath the tool, there are detailed explanations on what each category of the tool means, so even the average person can understand what they're reading. Research shows that 60% of viewers trust their TV meteorologists on information about climate change, and so the majority of viewers will believe this information as valuable. Getting this information out there is very useful, as most people in the public are unaware this tool even exists. Therefore, they don't have a way to figure out if renewable energy will be better for both the climate and their bank accounts in the long run. However, when you have their local meteorologist laying out all the facts and numbers for them, it will make it easier for them to weigh the pros and cons of switching to renewable energy. For Up in the Air, I'm Laura Silver.
Welcome back to the show. We had some really nice weather conditions this past week, but a little bit on the warm side.
Yeah, it was pretty warm this past week. We're getting about midway through the month of September now. You're going to have people start wondering, where's fall? Are there any fall temperatures? So we're going to throw it over to Joe at the Climate Wall and see if we have any fall weather on the way.
Well, Logan and Ryan, fall weather might have to hold off a little bit in terms of next week, and we'll get to that in our temperature outlook. But first, we'll take a look at the climate info here for September 19th. An average high of 71 degrees, an average low of 52 degrees. Not looking too bad for this time of year, but we have our records that are really going to put you in your place in terms of where we are right now. 90 degrees back in 1932 and 34 degrees back in 1959, only 2 degrees above the freezing level. Now, I mentioned that temperature outlook here. We have it here for September 23rd through the 29th. And if you're looking at this map, it looks entirely one-sided, like an argument with one of your parents. But here we see in the Northern Rockies, it's starting to define features of this map, and even into the northern central plains where we have the lowest chance to see above normal temperatures. And that stretches in intensity over along the west coast where we have a greater chance to see above normal temperatures. And that region starts to extend itself down into the southeast. Here is where we have the highest concentration with the greatest chance to have above normal temperatures, ranging down entirely over Florida, up along the east coast, covering most of North Carolina, ranging up into Virginia. And in our neck of the woods, it's also going to see above normal temperatures, but not as great of a chance as we see down in the southeast. Now, for precipitation for the same time window, August 23rd to August 29th, a lot of the country is going to see neutral chances for precipitation, but we have 3 spots where the outlook changes. Up here in the northern central plains along North Dakota, Montana, South Dakota, and Minnesota, we have a chance for below normal precipitation, concentrating more towards the north, but that scene changes as we head over towards the southwest. Here we see a chance for above normal precipitation down in southern Arizona into southern California, and keep that in mind as we head into our drought monitor coming up in a bit. But we're back down to the below normal chances down here in the southeast once again. Florida and parts of South Carolina is seeing the greatest chance to have below normal precipitation. So it's going to look like a hot week and a dry week. So as long as we stay away from those miserable muggies, it might not be too intense of a weather week, but if you don't like the hot temperatures, it might be not too comfortable for you. But in our neck of the woods, we're going to still see those normal conditions coming through in terms of precipitation. Now here's that drought monitor I mentioned earlier. A lot of the country is seeing spotty conditions for abnormally dry weather. But that changes as we head over into the Four Corners region. Now remember, we saw that above normal that chance for above normal precipitation. That might help to alleviate some of the conditions we see here. We have severe drought right next to the Four Corner region, and a lot of the moderate and abnormally dry are just spacing themselves out along the Four Corner states. But that sort of mirrors condition over in the Northwest. We have Washington, the northwest region of Washington, seeing 2 spots for severe drought, and it's remaining relatively dry along the west coast of Oregon and Washington. And that's here in Texas, we see our only chance we have our only condition for extreme drought, remaining relatively concentrated in the central channel of Texas and even reaching into parts of southern Oklahoma. And that condition alleviates itself a little bit as we head into the southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, seeing some severe drought, and we see those conditions start to taper off as we head up the East Coast. But here in State College and some surrounding states such as Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Jersey have no drought conditions whatsoever, but it can't be said for some of the neighboring states where we have some abnormal dry conditions. We're starting to get into the fall months, so we're bringing back our fall foliage report. Here's our 3rd report as of September 16th, 2019, and if you were with us for last week's episode, this map might practically look the same. We have a lot of little to no change in the northeast, but if you take a look over here in northern New Hampshire and western Maine, we're seeing the conditions are starting to change a little bit. It's classified as low color, so the leaves are only starting to change slightly and very subtly. So if you're one of those fall foliage fanatics, it might be something to look forward to if you're making plans to see the leaves change color. For your weekend forecast coming up, 82 degrees across the board for the weekend. It's going to be mainly hot, mainly dry. We have Saturday being the day where we're going to have a lot of sun. It's going to be my pick of the weekend. But the clouds are going to start to taper in on Sunday. Not something we can classify as partly cloudy or mostly cloudy. It's just going to be isolated and spotty. So for you guys at the desk, if you're making any plans for this weekend, you might want to incorporate sunscreen or some sunglasses into those.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, definitely looking like a beautiful weekend this weekend to get out and about and have some fun in the sun. So thank you for joining us. Join us again next week on Up in the Air.